Hello, hello. Today we are going to talk about auras, also known as energy fields, and I also have a story time that follows up on one of my earlier videos about staying in a house that is haunted. And today it's about what happens when you take that spirit home. So let's just jump into it. So let's do the story time because that's always entertaining, right? So maybe about a month ago, I was house sitting for a girlfriend, and it was the first time that I stayed at this house. Her and her husband bought it, and yeah, they were out of town, so I was watching it for a few weeks and taking care of the dog, yada yada yada. And one night there was a night where I think it was about 10:30 because I was past my bedtime, and I was a little tips. I was having fun, and I was just really enjoying myself. And there was a moment where I was having a good time where everything just shifted. And way down the hallway, it just felt like there was an old man. Um, what the and I guess I should pause for a quick second. Um, a lot of my probably the biggest sensitivity that I have is clairsentient, which means that I just feel. Um, and empaths, people, if you identify as an empath, you would be clairsentient because that's all based on feeling. And I just felt an older male energy that was down the hall. And then I felt them kind of like go down the hall, past me, and into the garage. And it wasn't anything where I felt that they were trying to interact with me. It just felt very much that they were just, it was in passing. And I thought I heard noises in the garage. And honestly, for me, some of my boundaries is don't go looking for shit, right? Like, I'm at that point, I'm like, I don't need to go in the garage. Why do I need to go investigate? Like, it's not harming me. It's not whatever. I don't need to be engaged. So at that point, I went to bed, and come to find out with some digging, you should watch the video because it's just more in depth. But I found out that the guy who built the house, it was his last residence, and then yeah. And then I found out later on there's a photo of him and his wife in the garage that's still there. So that was it. That was really the only experience that I had. Aside from when my friend and her husband got back, we were in the family room playing games, and the lights were doing this like flickering. They just kept doing this flickering. And it's important to remember that part because spirits need energy to pull from, whether it's people, whether it is electrical. And, when it started doing the flickering, I'm just looking at my friend and I'm So I go home, um, and things seem fine, you know? Um, but there was a week where I just felt like shit just kept like going down. And maybe not going down in what some people might think of just like exploding, but it was just like one blockage after another where just I was not making any headway with anything. And finally, one of my mentors, it's hold on. So one thing to know about having a therapist is that every therapist has a therapist. And the reason being is that a therapist can't help other people solve their problems if they don't have someone who's helping them solve theirs. And the same thing I think applies to energy work. You know, for me, I have a lot of things that I am still learning, and everything is a new experience. And I'm fortunate that I have, someone in my life that I can go to and who's experienced stuff a lot longer than me, I'll bet in different ways. I have someone that I can check in with and be like, yo, just like, what the fuck is this? You know? Because a lot of that is what that can be like for me. It's like I am like, what is this? And I have to go and play a game of charades and figure out what all of these signs, symbols, and feelings mean. So there was a moment where she's like, "How are you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just feel bitter. Like, I'm just bitter. Like, and bitterness is not part of my um bitterness is not what I'm known for. And that's also not a word that is in my vocabulary very often. And, at that point, she's like, "Do you want me to do a check in on your energy?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's it. Like, come to think of it, why not?" So, fortunately, she just picked up an old man energy that was attached. And what? And then within, I think, a matter of a couple days, I ended up getting a cold, which wasn't that bad, and then it turned into like full blown laryngitis. So if you see me, I should probably do it right now. Take a sip of hot tea. I'm still recovering a little bit. so so what? So I ended up having to do a big old energy clearing for myself. And let's pause on that for a second and let's kind of go into about auras and also known as energy fields. So I want you to kind of imagine from like where my fingertip is and just kind of here. So just, sometimes energy fields can go out a little bit further. Usually they don't go much shorter than that because it is extending of our physical body. And that's sometimes when people come into our physical space where we're kind of like, "Oh, you're a little too close," or um and I hope that these are making connections to things that you have experienced in general. And when something comes into our space or we go into something, how do I say that? Um, when something comes into our space, we become aware of what is affecting what is kind of penetrating our space, um, what is making us uncomfortable, what feels good, what isn't. Um, some people have the capacity that they can see auras or energy fields, and they might say it's such and such color. I'm not one of those people. Um, but because for me, I feel it. I'm like, I don't like the way this person makes me feel. And what? So I want you to think of yourself as an energy source. You are, but think of it. And we have a lot of things that might pull from our energy, whether it be family, friends, coworkers, sometimes strangers. And it's important when we talk about healthy connections, when we say I will fill your cup, you fill mine. It's an energy exchange, right? And when we talk about unhealthy connections, we talk about people who attach themselves onto you and pull energy and leave you feeling drained, and or they dump their shit on you, which is really what it is. And sometimes they can leave you feeling sad, angry, um, lonely, depressed, whatever it is that they're feeling, they might just dump it on you because they don't want to hold on to that. And now that they just pulled a healthy you know, source of energy from you, they can go off doing their thing. Um, so what? Um, when we talk about, spirits, sometimes we can go and pick up spirits from places, just from places. So the more healthy that you become, and the more you put into your, I would say, spiritual life, your own energy, where you work through traumas and you start releasing things you don't need to hold on to, and you start bettering yourself, you just become this brighter light. And we all know what it's like when you come across someone who, when you engage with them and then they leave, you just kind of like, I like them. They make me feel good. Like, I feel like I got something from their energy and not something like someone was pulling from me, or, you know what I mean? So, spirits are very much, the same way. And, and what? And the thing about spirits is that you don't always know that they're there. And that's why it's important when I share about cleaning the energy of your space. Because sometimes you can pull energies with you, in common places you can pull from. Wandering spirits would be old dive bars, um, like old dive bars, like pubs, or hospitals. Hospitals are a big one. Police stations, funeral homes, cemeteries. Those are just common places. And it can be heavy. And spirits might find themselves attracted to you for a couple different reasons. One, it might be that they like your energy and you are just a bright light that they can just pull from. Or if you are someone who is, and generally when spirits haven't crossed over, there's a reason for that, and it's never a good one. Um, and for the spirits that haven't crossed over, they might find people who are out there who have similar, energetic trauma. How do I say that? Well, maybe that's how I say it. Where if the spirit is someone who dealt with a lot of sadness, they might find someone who holds a lot of sadness onto them. Or it might be anger. And what they will do is that once they kind of form that connection with you, they can amplify that. So that is why sometimes when people are really going through stuff, um, and things can feel like they're super heavy, I always encourage doing an energy clearing and just kind of clearing out whatever it is that could be there, and allow the person to deal with their own individual shit and not something else's. So, which is why it's important, why I say sage your house once a week, do the regular stuff so that way it just doesn't build upon. Um, so that being said, having to go through, identify what was going on with me, realizing that there was a spirit, because I didn't really know he was there until there was a moment, until I was like, I feel bitter. And I was like, that's not something that I normally feel. Um, and going through the motions of just reclaiming my space. And how can you make them go away? Uh, Sage is just like a topical, well, ointment issue, whatever. It does something. But for a more, when you know who it is, unfortunately I was able to have that pinpointed. You can call in a higher energy, and you want to call in a higher vibrational energy. Archangels are usually good. You can call on God, you can call on Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, you can call on any, they call them ascended masters. So people who were once living, at least those ones, not archangels. Um, People who once lived and they ascended to a higher rank. And what you can do is call that energy in and allow them to clear your space and escort anything that doesn't need to be there to wherever it can go. You wouldn't call in like your grandmother that passed because they kind of would be an equal, energy and be like, hey, grandma, get this guy out of here. Like, call on someone who can really move some shit. And what? Pay attention to your feelings. If something is not yours, um, again for me the bitterness, to like, and also pay attention to the energies that interact with you. How do they, when you leave from them, how do you feel? Do they make you feel good? Do they make you feel bad? One way you can practice at getting better is by observing but not feeling. If someone comes into your space, you can be like, whoa, you have a lot of energy, and you can identify what that energy is, but you can also be like, I don't need to feel it. And it sounds silly, but envision putting shields up, you know, and just being like, you can keep that energy. Like, I don't need it. I don't want it. And swerve. So that is kind of like a quick little story time about picking up spirits, but also understanding, auras and energy fields, and protecting your space, what your boundaries are, and doing what you need to do so that way you continue to be a healthy individual, because you got to start somewhere, and we don't like that energy. So to be continued. We'll talk again. Have a good day. Bye.